Former Eskom CEO André de Ruyter is today expected to shed more light on alleged corruption at the power utility. De Ruyter will be appearing before Parliament's Standing Committee on Public Accounts following an explosive TV interview just earlier this year. He made damning allegations against some senior government officials, implicating them in corruption at Eskom. De Ruyter also claimed that the cash-strapped parastatal was losing around R1 billion a month due to this theft. These revelations were met with fury from some senior members of the ANC who demanded proof. And Newzroom Afrika's Artie Mtungana joins us live ahead of that SCOPA meeting this morning. And Artie, that certainly will be high up on the agenda, the issue of proof from André de Ruyter insofar as the serious allegations he made against senior ANC officials involved in apparent corruption at the power utility, the evidence around those allegations.
Well, Michelle, you will recall that the ANC had issued out a statement shortly after those damning allegations were made by André de Ruyter, asking him for evidence and why not approach the South African police on this matter so it can be thoroughly investigated. But we know those very same ANC politicians are the same ones holding up the majority in the National Assembly, preventing an investigation that would have taken place had they not voted against it, that would look into the happenings at the power utility, especially in light of the current energy crisis and those allegations that were made by former Eskom CEO André de Ruyter. And you would know that even the Democratic Alliance sitting in the opposition benches has been one vehemently calling for a motion to look into the link between ANC senior politicians, the executive, and the corruption that is currently taking place at the power utility. I do have a DA MP here who's part of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts. Benedicta, thank you so much for your time this morning. Now, there is a statement that the chief whip of your party has issued out at the back of those questions that were sent to the president, where he says he's not aware of this alleged cartel that André de Ruyter alludes to. But not only that, we know that the DA has also been pushing for that ad hoc committee here in Parliament on Eskom.
Yes, indeed. In fact, you will see at the evidence that will be presented today by Mr. de Ruyter to SCOPA that he actually states that he went to have a meeting with senior police, including Minister Kele, and intelligence in June last year. So he certainly did do what he was required to do in terms of the legislation. The DA also brought the motion to have an ad hoc committee into the issue of Eskom, which of course was turned down by the ANC majority. So in fact, the meeting with SCOPA today is the only opportunity we will actually have to get information from Mr. de Ruyter, and then of course next week going into dealing with the board and also the minister. So it really is important that we shine a light on what is going on at Eskom so South Africans understand the corruption that is bedeviling the entity and essentially crippling the economy.
This is not the first time that de Ruyter appears before Parliament, especially as the CEO, because now he's exited the power utility. But some of the issues that Mr. de Ruyter speaks of are issues that are not new to Parliament's records, but I presume that the answers that you would be seeking today are answers around the link between ANC senior politicians and members of the executive.
Very much so. I mean, there is very clear evidence that there was, if not just interference, straight up collusion by members of the cabinet, specifically 2 members of the cabinet. And what we need to unpack is who knew what when, and that includes the president. When was he first made aware, and why has he done nothing, and in fact less than nothing, actively blocking having a committee looking into the issue of Eskom?
Well, Siviwe Kwagube, like I pointed out, the chief whip of your political party, has written to the president and he has subsequently responded. But just judging by that response, he for one says he is not aware of these cartels within Eskom because Mr. de Ruyter claims that about 1 billion rand gets stolen from Eskom per month. Those are very damning allegations. And the response that the president gave in as far as what is being done to deal with the corruption, doesn't that already give you a sense of the response that you'll get from the president?
Look, I think for the President to say he didn't know, the flip side of that is essentially admitting that he didn't know something that he should know going on within his own cabinet. So I really don't think that's a particularly good excuse at all. The concern is, of course, that the ANC and the government is so complicit in this corruption that there is no political will to actually fix the entity.
You would note that the former President Thabo Mbeki wrote to the ANC, that letter leaked, where he was complaining about the majority voting against the establishment of that ad hoc committee. Are there any steps that the party is going to take to further push for a probe? Because essentially what the ANC is saying is that there's other oversight committees that can look into this matter, but we haven't heard of any work being done there.
Well, what's interesting is yesterday the Ethics Committee in fact decided not to appoint a portfolio committee to hold the Minister of Electricity accountable. So, it's good and well to say there's the Standing Committee, there is Energy, there is SCOPA, but what we've actually seen come out is a refusal to expand that. And with turning down the ad hoc committee, it's very, very clear that they have no interest in actually holding Eskom and the entities and the ministers involved accountable.
All right, thank you so much for your time. That's all we have time for. We are running out of time as we edge closer to 9 o'clock when the Standing Committee on Public Accounts hears from the former CEO of the power utility, André de Ruyter. Michelle?
There in Cape Town at Parliament, thanks very much indeed.